Okay, Dr. Saab, can I ask you a related question with it?
Yeah, sure,
Okay.
sure.
Now, can we say, in the light of what you have said, can we say that the geography of the land deeply influenced the civilizational consciousness of early and pre-medieval Kashmiri society? There are three questions, but one flows from the other. That is number one. Second point is, along what lines was ancient Kashmiri society structured? Was it organized along ethnic lines, with the Nagas regarded as the original inhabitants? Some of it you did cover. Or stratified strictly according to the caste hierarchy as existed in rest of India? And flowing from there, a related question: what were the socio-cultural ethos and practices that bound different social groups of the region together? Can you please throw some light on the salient aspects of social and cultural life of people of early Kashmir?
First of all, I must say that no ethnographic analysis, no anthropological study of the early inhabitants of Kashmir, of the early medieval settlers of Kashmir, has been done so far, not even by those who claim to have worked at the Burzuhama site, where skeletons were shown buried in pits. So who exactly were these people ethnically cannot be decided, but so we cannot identify anybody. He is a Naga and he is a Yaksha and he is a Pishata and he is this and he is that. We cannot, but there are some pioneering scholars who have worked on it, like Ved Ghai, and then there's Ajay Mitra Shastri, and there is also Damodar Gupt has also written about it. So we have some scattered evidence of how they lived and how the society was formed. So that when we trace the trajectory of the evolution of Kashmiri society from the earliest to early medieval time, and get authentic information on how Kashmiris lived, we have to try to garner more reliable and verifiable evidence. First of all, we talked about a massive immigration movement of the people from the Saraswati region. Whether this actually took place or not, whether those people came to Kashmir along with other certain places or not and called themselves Saraswat Brahmins, is itself to be finalized, finally decided, finally this problem has to be solved. But the different groups that inhabited Kashmir were by no means serpent worshippers alone. And they were by no means worshippers of one religion, or side by side with worshippers of Shiva. They were worshippers of Vishnu. They were worshippers of sun. They were worshippers of Buddha. They were worshippers of the goddess. So it was a society which had a certain belief system in which divinity and divine deities were seen in every aspect of nature. That is why the whole of the Kashmir, whole of the place, whole of the valley is so full of tirthas or pilgrimage places. And as you will know, Kalhan has also said that there is not space for even a sesame seed. So many Kashmir is sanctified by so many places of pilgrimage. So a Kashmiri society was in no way, what I want to say, uh, particularly different from people or other people of the country, except for its local usages and except for the salubrious climate and the beautiful environs that they enjoy. So the people of Kashmir, early medieval people of Kashmir worship their gods. They tried to propitiate their demons, and while doing so, uh, they have been described as a very festive people, people who enjoyed multiple festivals. So in Kashmir of Nilmat era, or who can say pre-medieval or medieval, early medieval Kashmir, there was a festival galore which people celebrated. And people celebrated these festivals amidst much music and singing and dancing. Even there were many different kinds of festivals. There were agricultural festivals, there were religious festivals, there were festivals dedicated to the weather god. So all these the kinds of festivals you see, they celebrated and they went together. And what is great about it is that they were a people who were it was a society, which was an open society and which had a very developed sense of aesthetics. So people used to go to, I mean, this is what Neil Mata writes, people used to go to gardens, Ira gardens, and sit under the boughs of the Ira bush, and men and women would worship, I'm sorry, adorn each other with the garlands and flowers of the Ira bush. So that was the kind of life they lived. Or they played water sports, and young ladies, young unmarried virgins are enjoined upon to take part in these water sports and enjoy. And then they were not only this, according to this S.C. Ray, the society was not divided into the traditional four castes, Brahmins and Kshatriyas and Vaishya and Shudra. So he says that there were only Brahmins and the other people, other were whom we consider lower caste, were just people like they were the artisans, they were hunters, they were the nishadas. So nishadas means boatmen.
But perhaps they were never considered to be lower caste. That's what.
That is what. That I mean, they were different kind of people, and actually they were divided and organized not along caste lines.
Lines, correct.
Because the division of along caste lines was never a, you see, iron caste in Kashmir.
Correct.
So it was actually a very, as I said, a free society, a very Catholic society in which all the, according to Nilmat, all the four castes, there were actually, Shashi Ray said that there were no four castes, there were these people, boatmen and other people.
Agriculturists, boatmen, everyone lived.
But actually they were divided along occupational classes.
And
there were three kinds of occupational classes. Those who depended on agriculture.
Correct.
Those who depended on commerce. And the other people who were the menials, the ordinary, the lowest, like chandals and others, who were asked to hunt and who were asked to deal with.
Take care of the societal needs.
No. Take care of skin of
Okay.
animals killed, and things like that. I mean, they
Okay.
do menial work.
Okay.
But even these people were not treated unjustly or unfairly. There were festivals in Kashmir in which even servants were asked to join, and they were supposed to take part with other members of the family and enjoy.
Okay. Okay, Dr. Saab, I will now come because we have to keep proceeding also because it's all related question. You see, there are some scholars who tend to describe Kashmir as an isolated and insulated historical region, which has had hardly any connection with history and culture of mainland India. This is a school of thought, or there are set of historians who would like us to believe that because of its geographical location. Now, according to them, it is a cultural area that has developed its own unique traditions. And there are others who claim that it was and it continues to be the fountainhead of Indian culture. Now, these are two different versions. But based on facts, what is your opinion about this very crucial question that I'm asking you?
Well, our history of early Kashmir, or Kashmir's cultural past, as we can say, has been distorted to an extent that it is difficult to dig out a kernel of truth from all the mountain of lies. So, but there are certain things very clear. Kashmir was never isolated. In spite of being surrounded by the mighty Himalayas and all that, there were scholars, there were people, there were kings. For instance, in the 6th century, Matracheta, the king, a king was sent by the king Bhoja of Malwa to rule over Kashmir when the throne was not occupied. Similarly, there were queens from other places, and Kashmiri kings and Kashmiri queens and Kashmiri people also used to, in particular, scholars would go to other parts of the country, from Kashmir to, say, the southernmost part of it, as is clear from the greatest writers of Kashmir, Bilhan, and who went to Kalyan or Karnataka. Then there is the great musician Sharangadev, who also went to the south, which is almost the same, Maharashtra or Karnataka. So there were people. And similarly, when Kashyap Rishi was asked to help to drain out the waters of the lake, because it was because of a demonic attack, the attack of the demon Jalodha. He was at Kankhal at that time. Kankhal means near Haridwar. He was at Kankhal at that time. And Kashyap Rishi is one of the 7 great rishis. He is the progenitor and the preceptor par excellence. He is supposed to be the progenitor of not only the human beings, but also of Nags and Garuds and Daityas and Rakshasas and all other species that inhabit the globe, inhabit this planet. So he is supposed to be one of the greatest rishis. So he was at Kankhal. And the gods and goddesses they evoke were all the gods and goddesses that are worshipped in other parts of the country. There was no different religion sort of a thing, except for some local gods and goddesses. Besides, people from Kashmir and according to the Buddhist Jatak tales and Buddhist texts, Kashmir and Gandhar were one Janapad. Janapad means a territory where people, a sort of a republic, where there's no king, but where people have their own administration. So Kashmir was, for according to the Buddhist text, a part of the Kashmir Gandhar Janapad. And also Kashmiris went across the Himalayas and had their impact with the Kashmiri metal casters, you see, made beautiful sculptures of Avalokiteshvara. And these beautiful sculptures and Avalokiteshvara and the Buddha and other deities were taken across by them to the Central Asian countries. And please, let me finish it.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not.
Some of the greatest scholars of Buddhism or of Kashmir, so she went to China, and contributed a lot, not only in disseminating Buddhism, but also the study of the Vedas, also the study of Indian culture. One of them was Kumara Jiva, as you know. Kumara Jiva, who was the son of a Kashmiri Brahmin and a princess of Kucha. The name of the Brahmin was Kumara Ayana, and the name of the princess was Jiva. So the king of China, of a particular area in China, virtually attacked Kucha and kidnapped Kumara Jiva so that he would come to his place and translate Buddhist texts. And not only these, there is a host, we all know about them, Gunavarman and Dharma Yashas and all these. I mean, in fact, this Sarvastiva, then after that the Mahayana Buddhism, and after that Vajrayana. See, all those founders, all the great sages of these sects of Buddhism were from Kashmir. And they lived there for years together and translated the Buddhist texts. Then again, Kashmir was a part of Ashoka's empire. Kashmir was a part of Kanishka's empire. And not only a part of Kanishka's empire, but Kanishka convened the fourth Buddhist conference, the fourth Buddhist Congress in Kashmir, in Kundalwan near Harwan, so as to make certain changes in the Tripitaka, in the three texts, Buddhist texts, because there were some differences about their interpretation. And 500 arhatas, or great siddhas, I mean, great Buddhist saints were called, and people from all over, Buddhist savants from all over India were present at that time. And records of this great fourth Buddhist council was written on copper, these plates. Those copper plates were buried somewhere in Kashmir. They have not been found. But a person like Human Song mentions him. Human Song came to Kashmir. Other Chinese travelers also came to Kashmir. And he has described the lives of Kashmiri people in detail. And there are very interesting aspects of it also. We had a king in the 11th century, 10th, 11th century, Anantadeva, who was very fond of betel leaf. And this betel leaf was sent to him by the king of Malava through a person. And in return, the man would carry from the Papa Morchan, the water of the Papa Morchan Tirth in Kashmir to Malava, and that man would not take his breakfast, that man would not take his water unless water from Kashmir reached Malava. And besides what Kashmir's great contribution, tremendous contribution to Indian aesthetics, you see, let the thoughts of the basic, the building blocks of Kashmir, you see, of Indian aesthetic theory, were all from Kashmir. They were Kashmiri scholars, and they were discussed throughout India.
Okay.
And not only that, when the tantras came, gained predominance, the tantric see, ideas, the tantric notions, the tantric philosophy and thought.
That we'll come to that question next.
Will come.
I just
So
wanted
what
to.
what I mean to say that this is idea, this notion is deliberately being floated as part of an agenda to show that Kashmir is something unique and it has no relations with Indic culture. But
Okay.
the fact is, it was throughout connected with the Indian mainland.
Right, right.